when should you take away someone's platform? What's the difference between holding a grudge versus holding someone accountable? I think a big difference between you and I is that I am more of a grudge holder, especially as someone who feels like I've seen a lot of betrayal in organized spaces, church hurt, and seeing a lot of leaders kind of abuse their power. And I think that's instilled in me a sense of anger and a belief that people don't change.
Forgiveness can take years. Forgiveness can take an entire lifetime for some people, and that's valid. But I think if you're in a space where you want to forgive and you see forgiveness as a possibility in the future, I think really scope out, what is this doing to you on the inside? Hey, homebodies! Welcome back to the Introvert Study Podcast, where we discuss culture, media, and faith from the perspective of an introvert's complex mind. I'm Seth.
I'm Carina. This is like our fifth time doing the intro.
This is our fifth time doing the intro.
Seth kept messing it up, so I think from here on out I should do the intro.
We were trying to harmonize, and we couldn't I don't know if it was like the, hey!
Yeah, we were trying to harmonize and be creative for you guys, but it wasn't working.
Wait, what? Hey.
Hey. Oh, that time we got it.
Hey. No, that was not.
So,
anyway.
Today, guys, well, it's been a little bit because I was on vacation.
She was on vacation.
So
for 10 days.
10 days, which was a long time. As a homebody, I wanted my body to be at home. 10 days is just way too long for me. Like, I need routine. I need to be knowing exactly what's going to happen every second of the day.
Yeah.
Vacation is good for me for like 3 to 5 days, and then I would like to be at home. But I'm back.
Yeah.
And I did have a good trip. So we just had to delay recording for a little bit, but we're glad that you guys are back. And if you're new here, especially if you are watching the video version, please subscribe and do the notification thingies. We really need your support as we're growing our platform on YouTube. And if you are an audio-only listener, thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting. Be sure to give a review and do whatever else you do on Spotify.
And download. Please download.
Yeah, for real.
And give a review. I know she already said it, but let's give a review.
Yeah.
Let's get some comments going on here. Anyway, make that bell blue. Let's keep on going.
Yeah.
All right.
So what are we talking about today?
So today we're kind of just talking about a few things. I have noticed something, just to kind of lead into it. I have noticed something so much over the past, in particular, like decade, I would say. So you know that, of course, we're Gen Z, right? Gen Z and, are probably the people who are closest to, Gen Z and younger millennials, right? I have noticed that there have been a lot of interesting controversial figures, right? Mm-hmm. I won't say any names for this episode, but there's a lot who have been rightfully canceled, wrongfully canceled, some who their platform may have been, people might have apologized for canceling them, but their platform never came back.
Yeah.
And we just kind of want to take a moment to talk about why we are so unforgiving of people and kind of about cancel culture a little bit today.
Yeah, and kind of navigating the gray areas of when should you take away someone's platform? When is forgiveness a good thing? And what's the difference between holding a grudge versus holding someone accountable? That's something I'm really excited to talk about because I personally am a grudge holder.
Yes, you are.
And I think that's the biggest difference between the two of us is that when we're upset at each other, you take your time to think about it and to talk about it with me, but then we're back to normal after like a couple days. And for me, it's like I might bring up the argument a year later.
You might, and you have.
And I will.
She will keep doing it probably.
But this is
But
not,
I also have problems.
This is not about us. We just did a relationship episode. So this is more about the general public. Gen Z, because I feel like there are patterns among Gen Z about forgiveness and or lack thereof and accountability. So let's talk about it.
Something I've noticed in particular is that when there is something that goes wrong with, say, a certain maybe content creator or a celebrity or maybe a pastor or whatever it may be, our generation is very quick to immediately just just like completely hate on them. I remember a couple years ago, I won't give any specifics, but there was a specific artist from a boy band, who I remember there were some allegations brought up against this person, and immediately people were disliking all of his videos, unfollowing him, sending him hate mail, sending him death threats, and it turned out like over a year later that what the account on Twitter that had accused him was actually a fake account.
Oh my
and
gosh.
was an account made by a random ex stan or whatever, and the pictures they used were actually a picture from a random guy's Instagram.
Wow.
It was a really big thing, and a lot of people then were like, "Oh, we're so sorry. We never doubted you for a moment." And it's like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? I think Gen Z has a big problem with, kind of throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I think that's the correct term. As soon as there's a bad thing at all, it's like, no, we're done. Forget about you. I never liked you anyway. I don't know you. I don't like you. Get away from me. I'm done watching your content. Go to jail, rot in hell, whatever. That type of stuff. And
You're not even exaggerating. People
no, I'm not.
literally
Seriously.
say that.
People immediately are like, I'm so disappointed in this person, when in reality, it's like, you don't actually know if anything happened. It's like, it's like people will believe anything. Mm-hmm. People believe anything immediately. And it's not to say that sometimes you shouldn't take it seriously. Like, there have been times where that same type of thing has happened, but it turns out it was true. Mm-hmm. And people were completely flipped on their back and been like, wow, that's really crazy. And now I hear people saying, oh, I just shouldn't trust any person who makes content on, the internet, or I shouldn't trust anyone who does any form of, content creation. And that's such a sad way to go on the internet and, live life, honestly, as a fan or as a person who enjoys watching YouTube videos, watching TikTok, watching Instagram, whatever. You got any thoughts?
Yeah, I want to talk about forgiveness too, eventually, on a individual scale and in a real life scale, because I think there's a lot of people out there who are talking about cancel culture. Yeah. But to talk about cancel culture for a little bit of time, it must be so hard to live your entire life in front of a camera, and because for us, we're making the choice to sit here and record this episode, right? But for some people, their entire life is dependent on recording every single second, going live on social media whenever, and you have no editing control over that. And obviously we're human, and you ever just say something or think something and you're like, if I had a crowd in front of me, I would be dismembered, So it's just, I can't imagine making a living off of that and then risking accidentally saying something human or doing something human and then being completely wiped off the face of the earth. I am not excusing people who have said or done inhumane things. I'm talking about everyday mistakes, maybe jokes that are a little bit on the line or things like that. And when that happens, when you mess up in front of the camera, I think there is a good way and a bad way to handle the situation, right? Because you have no control over whether people cancel you. Humans are going to go after you no matter what. If you're a YouTuber and you make a mistake and you immediately sit down the next day and make an I'm so sorry video with your crying on the thumbnail and you're like, oh, I should have never done this. I love you guys so much. You guys are my world. Please don't abandon me.
Or a 10-minute long ukulele song on YouTube too. That also doesn't work out that well either.
If you do that, you look desperate, you look ingenuine, and it's just no one's going to buy it. Yeah. There was a really good example of somebody I saw years ago. He had been a content creator for a couple years, doing this was at the time of parody videos and you would make your own music videos to things. And he was actually a Christian too, and I really liked his content. And there were pictures that leaked of him being unfaithful. I'm pretty sure he was in a relationship. I don't think he was married, but being unfaithful. And he got off the internet. He deactivated his socials or just logged out of his socials, didn't say a word. No one knew where he went for 4 or 5 years.
Wow.
And eventually he came back and made a really long video about, it was an apology video, but it wasn't begging for attention or I'm so sorry, please forgive me, I need you guys back. He was genuinely talking about what happened. He admitted to what he did. He said, I needed to get off the internet and I needed to be in therapy. He basically said he was in therapy for the last couple of years, that he was off the internet. And he never made it seem like he needed his following. He just said, I'm back here because I feel like I've healed from it. And if you want to leave, you can leave. But I'm here making new content. I'm starting over. And he's huge again. And I still like his videos. And I have so much respect for him, like taking that time off of the internet and then coming back and admitting to his wrongdoings and not begging for his followers to stay. I just feel like, and obviously what he did was horrible and inexcusable, and I just think he handled it in a mature way, and I wish more public figures handled it like that.
That's a fair statement, and especially since it seems like, to kind of keep this part brief, that it does seem like we almost want people's entire livelihood to be finished once they make a mistake. And it's not to say like once they make a crime, a crime is a different thing. Like if you did some stuff, if you did some rough, bad, evil criminal activity, you should be in jail. You maybe probably shouldn't have a platform for kids.
Or a platform.
Or
I'm
a
all
platform
for, listen, we're all for some people like losing, some people need to lose their platform.
No, yeah.
But it's not everybody.
Yeah. When it comes to certain people who make very honest mistakes or just say something that was, taken out of context or something that was just said in a way that was just very in the heat of the moment, I think sometimes we pressure people to be perfect all the time on camera, when in reality, we're not perfect people. In general, like people who are like, I've never said a bad thing like this, I've never, you probably have, realistically. And you know what the crazy thing too is? When you comment on a video like that, there's actually no way for a person to know you ever did that. In my opinion, when someone actually comments something like that, I always think that I'm like, you definitely have. Now I have more reason to believe you have said something like that.
Yeah, if you have to go out of your way to be like, I would never do this. How I could have never. I'm like, really?
No, yeah.
You had to let us know that?
No, yeah. And it's
Anyway.
like, yeah, people should not be saying racist, sexist stuff like that on the internet, or homophobic stuff like that on the internet at all, right? At the same time, I think sometimes we pretend like we're so perfect and that we don't slip up sometimes and say things we don't mean to say. And there's been a lot of instances of some really big creators who have not been known for that, slipping up time and time again, and then honestly being like, listen, I'm not like that, and I don't know why I said that. And they come back, and their followers are able to be like, okay, I think it seems like you've really changed,
And that's the thing. You have to see change in people before you can restore a relationship with them. And that goes for in person and online.
Yeah.
Like, if you are a big content creator and you make promises about what your future is going to look like, I need to see that being lived out, If that apology video just goes under the rug and it's never heard of again and you're exactly going back to exactly how you were, like, you need to be able to see the change, see the fruit, as we would say in Christian communities, and in your real life too. If someone hurts you and they apologize to you and they're like, these are the changes I'm going to make, me personally, my relationship with that person can't go back to the way it was before until I see long-term change in them. And that might mean that my relationship with that person is going to be different for a little bit. Like, we can still have a relationship, but I'm not going to trust you as much. You're not going to be as close to me until I see the change. And I think Christians tend to fall in one of the two camps of holding a grudge and saying that it's righteous anger, so they get to be angry, or I have to forgive you and move on because that's what Jesus would do. Let's find a happy medium, okay? Definitely forgive. That is what Jesus would have done. Yeah. Forgive does not mean you let them walk all over you and go exactly to how it was before. If you don't show them that you are needing to see this necessary change, if they're still going to be in your life, they have to prove that to you. So anyway, that's just something I see in Christian and secular communities. It's like, so polarized when it comes to forgiveness, and people either are quick to cut off relationships or are quick to continue toxic relationships, and you have to forgive while also requiring long-term change. That's just what I think.
No, yeah, and I think some people confuse forgiveness by literally saying, I forgive you. I don't think actually forgiving someone means you have to literally say, I forgive you, but it does. I think there also needs to be the thing inside of you that's like, I don't want to let this hold me anymore. And I don't want to let this hatred inside of me just grow and build. And some people are like, well, I like the idea of hatred inside me keeping me as a motivator. There's a lot of people who think that way. And I think
I didn't even think about that.
I think that is a sad way to live because, for one, that hatred that lives inside of you, like, just know that, and this might be a controversial opinion, but know that half the time, the person who did you wrong probably does not care about you as much as you think they do, or is probably not even thinking about you as much as you're thinking about them every day. It's not to say that you shouldn't think about the people who have done you wrong in your life, because it would be very, unsympathetic of me to say that and to say, oh, well, just think about the positive. That's not what it's about. But there is a process, and I think getting to that process of you forgiving them is almost like getting to a point of forgiving yourself for being so angry and being so mad, and almost like letting yourself kind of be held by that. I think that's what true forgiveness is. And I think once you get past those, I think that's where you find real joy and real freedom from those problems. The thing with, again, I think Gen Z in particular, and a lot of people, but I think with Gen Z in particular, is we have the mindset that people don't change, that people cannot change. Not that people don't want to change, that people cannot change and people won't change no matter what you do, that the person will always be the same person no matter how hard you try. And of course, as Christians, we just don't believe that. I mean, one of the most important apostles in, Christian literature is Paul. And I mean, Paul went from prosecuting Christians, being one of the biggest ops to Christians out there, to being like, one of the most well-revered and well-respected apostles and writers in the Bible. Philippians, Ephesians, Galatians, Colossians, 1st and 2nd Corinthians, all books written by Paul, who most people would say at a time was not really living a Christian life. So I think the whole idea that we don't believe people can change is a very worldly idea of people who just don't want to admit the fact that there is a way to change people. It also makes no sense because we're in an age of therapy, right? We're in an age of therapy and meds, which I think are good. I think if you need meds, you should take meds. I think if you need therapy, it's good to seek out therapy and seek out good and wise counsel. But we're so about therapy and wise counsel, but we don't believe people can change. Why are we fighting for those things if we don't believe a person can change? If a person can't change, then why should we believe in any form of life-changing experiences like that?
That is a really good point. It's definitely getting me thinking, because I think a big difference between you and I is that I am more of a grudge holder, and I've definitely gotten to those spirals where I get so mad and I'm like, this person will never change. This person has never changed. And sometimes I still fall into that, especially as someone who feels like I've seen a lot of betrayal in organized spaces, church hurt, and seeing a lot of leaders kind of abuse their power. And I think that's instilled in me a sense of anger and a belief that people don't change. People are manipulators, whatever. I do believe people can change. I just think it takes time.
Yeah.
And that's why I think I need to distance myself when someone hurts me. And especially as an introvert too, like I want to be home and I want to be stewing in that anger and sitting in that and being like, this person has changed, this person doesn't change. What were you going to say?
No, yeah. And I want to clarify this, that just because you forgive someone does not mean that they are owed your time.
That's good.
Just because you forgive someone does not mean that they have to become your best friend. A person who might have, done some wrongdoing to you or seriously hurt you in your life that affected you for years to come, that person is not owed your time. The most, if you decide you want to forgive them, the most they are owed is an I forgive you. You don't have to give that person anything more than that. Yeah, we have to realize that as people, we don't forget. We're not like God. We cannot simply just forget something happened to us. There are things that people can do to us that will literally last in our brains, in our psyche, until we are dead. And that's just something that we have to deal with, and something that they are going to have to deal with as well if they truly want to change as well. But just because they've taken the steps to change and you've forgiven them, that does not mean that your relationship has to go any further than that forgiveness. And I hope people don't feel like just because I know that there are a lot of groups and Christian groups that view forgiveness as an all-encompassing bridge builder that perfectly makes your relationship perfect and you're best friends and you can just be. No, it's for one, it's it's very negative to force someone, first of all, to forgive someone. I want to say that first. It's very negative to force someone to forgive someone. It's very negative to force someone to confront someone when they're not ready, you know? But even further than that, it's not anyone besides the person who wants to forgive. It's no one else's right to for them to have a relationship with that person besides that person who wants to forgive. That person who wants to forgive, they deserve to call the shots on that relationship. If they decide, hey, I think we could be really good friends. This person has really changed. I want this person in my life. Good for you. You're very strong for that, you know? And not that you're weak if you do, but good for you. But if you don't, you're strong as well for saying that. It takes a lot of guts to tell someone to not be in your life and to go against what others are telling you you should do. So I just wanted to make that statement after what you were saying.
Yeah. And again, too, it is about that balance and not trying to fall into either extreme, because I do think Gen Z is quick to cut people off, and especially family, which makes me sad. For little things, too, you know, like, oh, you don't agree with this choice I made, so I'm not going to have you in my life speaking negativity over me. If your family has, you know, legit hurt you, traumatized you, I totally believe in setting the boundaries that you need to set. But like you said, I think you can keep someone at arm's length and find ways to compromise, keep them in your life, set the boundaries you need to set in order to heal and to allow them to heal, and forgive them, but they don't need to be your best friend.
No, yeah. And that could end sometimes with cutting someone off.
Yeah.
Because you got to realize that if they don't change their ways, say you want to have a family, that is now not just affecting you, you know? That person can affect their life too.
That's true.
You know? So you got to think about that too in the bigger term of things, or even your friends, you know, your friends or whoever you're dating. So what do you think we see as solutions? I'll answer first.
Yeah.
One big thing for me is that a lot of people know in my life that forgiveness is a very big value of mine.
You're a good
I'm
forgiver.
not always perfect with forgiveness, but I view forgiveness as something that's very important to me because, you know, I don't want to be in a world where, you know, there's people that I know that their negative attitude towards me is weighing on my heart. It just feels like it's very suffocating. So I think that forgiveness is a very good tool, but if you're someone who finds it very hard to forgive, which is reasonable, if you're someone who finds it very hard to forgive someone who did wrong to you, I think you really need to think about what is the main thing besides just exactly the actual physical act of whatever they might have done to you. Think about the mental and emotional parts of what is really triggering you to that point. Forgiveness is not a short, easy thing. Forgiveness can take years. Forgiveness can take an entire lifetime for some people, and that's valid. But I think if you're in a space where you want to forgive and you see forgiveness as a possibility in the future, I think really scope out, what is this doing to you on the inside? How are you feeling when you think about this person, when you think about what they did to you, when you think about the way they hurt you, the way they might have violated you, whatever they did to you? How are you thinking about those things, and how are they affecting you in your mind, in your interactions with others, in the way you think about yourself? How do you feel that's going? And I think once you start to really settle down on, okay, now I know how that's making me feel inside, I think that's where the real change in forgiveness begins to happen in your life. And you may start noticing, oh, people don't like when I treat them like this, and it's because I was hurt. People don't like when I say this to them, but I say that because I was hurt. It's a trauma response. You know, and I think find those deep triggers and those trauma responses in your every day-to-day life can be so helpful in a path to forgiveness.
That was like perfect. I don't even think I have anything to add. Yeah, I mean, just thinking about how forgiveness will affect you as well as the other person. Grudge holding is something I'm trying to work on. I don't think anyone should hold a grudge necessarily. I don't think that you like ignoring this person or getting back at them for revenge is going to do anybody any good. I think you should sit alone with your feelings, think about why, how this person hurt you and deal with it accordingly. Like, it's going to be so different for everyone. You might have to have a face-to-face conversation with someone right away, or you might have to distance yourself from someone. That's not necessarily ignoring them. It's just, again, setting a boundary. I guess how I feel about people on platforms too is like, cancel them when they need to be canceled, when they've committed crimes or really betrayed their audience or someone in their personal life. If you have if you think about the friends in your close circle, if this person on this platform did something that you would disagree with your friends doing to a point where you would talk to your friend about it or even cut that friend off, I mean, I think cancel the person. Like, that's how I feel about it.
It's actually a good point.
But if you feel like what they did was redeemable, as long as they genuinely show that they are interested in healing, I mean, support them on that healing journey. That's how I feel. So, yeah, that was kind of a long-winded thought on cancel culture and forgiveness.
Yes. All in all, try not to harbor any rage inside of you.
It will happen.
Of course.
It happens.
Of course it'll happen. Hey, I mean, it's happened to both of us.
Yeah.
You know, there's we're not God, so we can't just act perfectly and have our emotions come out perfectly. You will react badly sometimes. You will probably say things you don't want to say. And sometimes the best way to get closure is to go to that person and scream at them. I'm just saying, that sometimes is the best way. You know, it might sound aggressive, but sometimes the best way to get that type of closure is to find the person who hurt you and just let them have it. Not physically, 'cause that's a crime. But like verbally, you know, be like, just if they're willing to hear it. Because sometimes they are. Sometimes they are willing to hear it.
That's true. Sometimes people want to know how you feel.
Sometimes, because you got to realize that sometimes, and this also might be controversial, that just as much as it's eating you up, it might be eating them up too. You never know.
Or it might not.
It might not. It might not. But there's a lot. You would be surprised at how many people sometimes genuinely remember the bad things they've done and wish they could go back.
Yeah.
And so some people are very willing to hear it, you know? But again, that's only if you're okay with seeing them face to face. I would never say you should, you have to, you know, because there's some people that you probably never want to see in your life again. But anyway.
Yeah, I hope you guys can get a grasp on our thoughts. I know sometimes we jump around and we aren't very black and white, but I think that's important to discuss. I think more people need to be talking about it because the problem on the internet is people being black and white about it. So I hope for the future of our generation and all future online generations that we will have the capacity to have these types of conversations with each other.
Yeah.
And with that, we will be back in 2 weeks, y'all.
We will be back in 2 weeks. Actually, this weekend we're doing something very special with someone who was just recently on the show.
Oh yeah, the timing is gonna be probably all messed up though.
Yeah,
I don't know when he'll release. Basically, we're doing a collab with someone, guys, on their podcast. What? Exciting stuff.
Very exciting, but we have no idea when that'll come out or when or how that process works.
We'll keep y'all updated though.
We'll tell you guys then.
Yeah.
And but it is someone who just recently was on the show, so
it's Corey Rosen.
It's Corey Rosen.
All right, guys, we'll see you over there, and we'll see you back here in a little bit. Thanks for listening. As always, we love you all.
Yes, and as always, make sure to subscribe.
Like.
Can you follow us on our socials? You can find us at _introvert_city on Instagram. You can find us at the Introvert City podcast on TikTok. You can find us on Facebook as well. You can find me at its_DANEYL.
And me at Carina_B04.
Thank you so much,
Peace
guys.
out. Bye,
Stay
homebodies.
cool. It's going to be hot. Bye, homebodies.